After having the TS55F track saw and new accessory kit for 3 weeks, I'm very excited about it, and it's the best track saw yet, and I'm going to run down the features with you. Let's start with the new TS55F saw, which stands for facelift. The biggest difference on the new saw is the width of the blade is 1.8 millimeters instead of 2.2. What this does is allows you to cut faster with less sawdust, and the blade lasts 50% longer. In addition, there's a spring-mounted splinter guard on the back that's going to reduce binding as well. All the other features are the same as far as the cut being a little over 2 inches. You can go -1 to 47 degrees on your angle cuts. Has the fast fix, same way of changing the blade, but the blade difference is what we're really talking about here. And the accessory kit I'll get to in a minute. On the blades, the way to tell the new style blades from the old is previously there was color coding for the material they cut all the way around the blade. This is an old blade. The new blade has half of a circle that denotes what it cuts. All of the, I believe it's 5 blades that are from ripping to fine cuts are available for this saw. A common question that I've had on Instagram is, can you put the new blade in your old saw? And the answer is no, because the splinter guard is wider on the back, so we cannot make it through the slot. They will work on the HKC 55 track saw, however, just to know. You set this to the side, and I want to go over the accessory kit with you. There's some really exciting features on here that if you're an existing track saw owner or a new one, you're really going to appreciate these features. These accessories pretty much replace the need for a table saw in most cases and allows you to bring the saw to the work instead of taking the work to a big table saw. Also available as a new offering is the 1400 and 1900 length rail that is the same as the previous except for a few added features. One of them being these 3 holes on the top. And what the center hole is for is actually a convenient carrying handle, because you're generally always carrying a sustainer with you when you're going to the job site. You can have a handy way of carrying the rail and not having to carry it in your other hand. In addition to that, there's also green, I would call them adhesive plastic connectors that you can put in on the rail and just snap into place. And on the back, there's a sticky pad, and you can basically put 2 of these on here and attach it to a vertical surface and cut. Now let's touch on the available accessory kit and the extension guide. First up in the accessory kit is the new angle guide, and let me show you how that works. The new angle guide can be used with the new rails or the previous generation rails. And you basically install it by just putting it across the top of those grooves on this side and sliding this little tab in here and making sure you have that back. And you just slide that on and then let this rubber clamp go down and it locks it into place. Now what we have is not only a perfectly straight plane to cut along, we also have a 90-degree angle to reference material. So if you're doing cross cuts, you can place this, you have it on 0 degrees, it's going to cut exactly 90 degree every time. Also available is an extension rail, which allows you to take that point of reference and actually add on to it by just using these 2 extension rails and tightening these in. And now you're left with a very large reference point for when cutting large sheet goods like plywood, and you're going to get more of an accurate cut than just referencing off this small area right here. But wait, there's more. In the included accessory kit, there's a stop that you can use with this extension rail. You just slide onto the end. You can lock with one hand the measurement that is actually on here from the splinter guard, and you can do repeat cuts. So you can mark this one time. If you get a lot to cut, you don't have to ever mark once. You just bring the material up to the edge, make your cut. You remove the extension rail so it's a little easier to spin this thing around. And I'm going to show you another feature that's built into the angle stop. On the angle stop are bench dogs that are removable. It's nice they're stored on board. You don't have to keep up with them. And you basically just flip this over and you slide it into the slot on each side and just turn to lock it in. And the nice thing about this is it gives you, instead of this reference point being this size right here for like sheet goods, if you were doing something like on a round table, this gives you a perfectly flat reference point so that when you're cutting, it will still engage at a 90-degree angle. That's one benefit of the bench dogs. The other one is you can line it up with your MFT table if you have one, and you can actually lock those in and tighten them from the bottom. And now you can use your MFT table as a cross-cut saw, even with angles, just like if you had all the MFT hardware. So this is a big benefit in itself to be able to use it with the MFT table. And when you're done with them, they store so nicely back on the angle stop, so you always have it. Also included in the accessory kit are 2 clamps, and you can use these in several different ways. One of the ways is on the new angle stop, there is actually a slot that you can clamp in on either side. You can clamp the material so it's not going to move on you. There's another way to clamp it. You can actually slide it onto right here, and when you slide it into here, you can see how the material will not be in the way. You can still clamp it down tight, and it's totally out of the way, but it holds it down really secure. You can also use that same clamp on this end if you wanted to have it clamped on both sides. I rarely use that feature, but if you're using really expensive material and you want it to be safe, this is the way to go. Also included in the accessory kit is a new, I guess you call it a deflector. And what the deflector is for is it goes on the end of the rail, and it keeps your cord and your hose from getting hung up on your saw. The previous model came over to here, and the cord would always get stuck in that little groove right there when you started pushing the saw. So the new version goes all the way across and gives you complete coverage so that your hose and your cord are going to run across and not get caught in the groove. Let's go ahead and remove the angle guide off, and I'll show you. It has automatic detents where you can go to 60 degrees, 90, 15, 30. You can do all your, dial it in, tighten it up. So it's very versatile, and you can do a lot with this accessory. Also included in the accessory kit are the new connector rails, which allow you to connect 2 rails together. So if you have 2 shorters, but you need to do a long cut, you can combine 2 together. What they've changed, instead of it being just 2 metal bars with 4 tightening Allen wrenches, they have what they call the stiffener and the straightener. And this one, the new design, when you tighten down the screw, it actually spreads it apart and aligns them perfectly. And then the second bar actually locks it in where it can't tilt back and forth. But it's really handy. They've got a little picture on here that shows that number 1 goes in the middle slot, and you just center that into the center line. Right here shows you where the center line is. And then you also insert on the other side, you insert the other rail. And then you bring the 2 together. And then you just make sure you have it on the center line on both sides. You tighten it down on this side and tighten it down on that side. And a little tip is to make sure that you leave a little space between there, because the angles on the rails, even when they're made on the line, are not exactly straight to each other. So if you press them together, sometimes it's better just to leave a little space there and let these bars do the work. So you just tighten it on, when you have this slid to the center spot on each side, you tighten these 4 screws and then tighten the 4 on the back. And it comes with the little Allen key that does this, but you can also use the one that comes in the saw. Another new improved feature in the accessory kit is a new stop guide that goes on the rail, and you just slide it into place and lock it in. And this is really good for having stop cuts if you're doing a plunge cut like into a floor. And as some people may know, when you have a track saw, when you're trying to plunge in, the saw has a tendency to want to raise up. What Festool did was added a groove so that when you have it locked in and you do a plunge, it's not going to have the ability to jump up on you. That's a huge improvement, because I've used that before and the saw wants to jump up. So when I'm doing this, you know for sure that the saw is going to stay nice and steady on a plunge cut. Okay, so I hope this overview helps you decide on if the TS55F saw is for you. I've been an avid Festool fan for at least 18 years. I've had every Festool saw that they've had as they come out. And this one I'm more excited about than a combination of the accessory kit. I just know I'm going to be using this one all the time. So if you're in the market for a track saw that's accurate, I would advise you to go this route even before you do a table saw. Whether you're a professional or a avid do-it-yourselfer, this track saw is the only saw you'll ever need.